In 1959, an Amish farmer in Lancaster County named Jacob King raised a family of 10 on less than $2,000 a year. No car, no mortgage, no insurance, and yet his barn was full, his children were healthy, and he had not a penny of debt. The world called him backward, but his ledger book told a different story. He was richer than most men with bank accounts. Today we're going to open that ledger and reveal 25 money secrets the Amish have kept to themselves. Thrifty habits that built quiet fortunes while the modern world borrowed itself into chains. These aren't just quaint customs. They are a complete financial system, one that rejects nearly everything we assume about money. No interest, no premiums, no government safety nets, just community, craftsmanship, and cash. And every single trick has a reason it vanished from our grandparents' world, edged out by convenience, by cheap factory goods, by the quiet shame of being called old-fashioned. But as you'll see, the Amish kept them alive, and they work just as well today as they did a century ago. Number 1, a little-known option. The IRS Form 4029 allowed Amish families to opt out of Social Security entirely, contributing nothing and receiving no benefits. This practice faded as the program expanded and penalties discouraged opting out. Most now pay in, though a few self-reliant holdouts remain. Number 2, the Amish Aid Arms Fund, a church-managed pool that replaces all commercial insurance. Every family contributes according to their means, and when a member faces a medical emergency or a house fire, the fund covers the cost. This system worked because it kept money inside the community and eliminated insurance company overhead. Why did it fade? As medical costs soared in the mid-20th century, the fund couldn't keep pace with hospital bills that now often exceed a year's income for a plain family. Many Amish districts still use it, but modern healthcare inflation has forced them to supplement with catastrophic coverage. The old way now, a partial safety net, not a complete one. Number 3. Barn raisings and work frolics turned construction into a social event. Neighbors gathered at sunrise, framing an entire barn in a single day, skilled hands working for free. No contractors, no hourly wages, just shared labor and a communal meal. But as factory-made lumber and power tools became cheaper and faster, the tradition faded. For the Amish, it remains an indispensable act of community. The work frolic was more than free labor, it was insurance. If your barn burned, your neighbors rebuilt it. But by the 1950s, rural electrification and cheap plywood made stick framing a solo job. Convenience edged out tradition. Today, only the Amish and some Mennonites keep this old economy alive, transforming a cost into a gathering. Number 4. Interest-free loans between families instead of banks. When a family needed money for land or a barn, they borrowed directly from relatives or church members. No interest, no paperwork. The borrower gave only a handshake promise to repay when able. This practice faded as the outside world's convenience crept in. Government programs and rural banks offered quick loans, and young farmers moved away to towns. Handshake loans began to feel old-fashioned, edged out by the ease of a formal bank visit. Number 5. Negotiate hospital bills in cash for steep self-pay discounts. Amish families would arrive at the billing office with envelopes of currency, asking, "What is your cash price?" Hospitals, eager for immediate payment, often slashed bills by half or more, a practice that quietly thrived for decades. As hospitals consolidated into large networks and adopted uniform billing software, the human ability to haggle disappeared. Cash discounts became rare, replaced by rigid policies and insurance requirements. The old way, once a quiet economic advantage, was simply no longer on the table. Number 6. Home births with community midwives to avoid maternity costs. Amish families relied on experienced midwives from their own community, often the same woman who delivered multiple generations. The entire service was a gift of neighborly care, no bill ever sent. Why it faded? As hospital births became the standard in the mid-20th century, many non-Amish families saw home birth as old-fashioned and risky, even though outcomes were often excellent. Convenience and perceived safety of hospitals edged out the tradition. Number 7. No cars. By refusing automobiles, an Amish family sidesteps auto loans, insurance premiums, fuel costs, registration fees, and the rapid depreciation that eats a car's value. This ancient economy faded when modern roads and distances made horse travel impractical for most Americans. Cars grew cheaper, faster, and more convenient, while auto loans turned car ownership into a monthly right for nearly everyone. Number 8. Strictly cash. In Amish households, credit cards don't exist. Every purchase, from a plow to a pair of shoes, is paid for with hard money. They believe debt is a form of bondage, so they save first, buy later. But by the 1960s, this discipline eroded even among the devout. The convenience of credit and the social pressure to keep up with modern conveniences made cash-only living seem backward. Today, fewer than half of Amish households remain strictly debt-free. Number 9. Trade apprenticeships instead of paid college. An Amish teenager learned carpentry, blacksmithing, or harness making from a master craftsman, living as an unpaid apprentice for years. No tuition, no student loans, just hands-on training for a trade that earned a living from day one. This system faded as factory-made goods undercut handmade trades. A paid apprenticeship no longer guaranteed a living when cheap furniture flooded the market. Convenience and mass production edged it out, and with it, the debt-free path to a skilled career. Number 10. Home-based cottage businesses with near-zero overhead and no rent. Amish families turned their kitchens and barns into workshops, making quilts, furniture, or canned goods. They sold directly from their homes, avoiding commercial rents and utility bills. This thrifty model faded as factory-made goods grew cheaper and zoning laws discouraged roadside sales. Convenience and regulation edged out the home workshop, though the frugal wisdom of avoiding rent still echoes in today's side-hustle economy. Number 11. Buy farmland collectively and pass it down to avoid mortgages. Amish families pool resources to purchase large tracts outright, then divide the land through inheritance or low-interest internal loans. No bank ever holds a note. This practice faded as non-Amish neighbors sold to developers for instant cash, and rising land prices made collective buying harder to maintain. Why it ended? Land became too expensive for any one group to buy outright without borrowing, and the younger generation increasingly preferred to sell inherited shares for cash rather than continue the collective arrangement. Number 12. Co-own expensive equipment across several families. Instead of each family buying a $10,000 threshing machine, 4 families would buy one together and share it on a rotating schedule. This kept cash in the community and avoided debt. This practice faded as modern equipment leases and cheap factory machines became available. By the 1960s, many found it less hassle to own their own smaller machines, even if they cost more overall. The old way lingered only among the most traditional. Number 13. Bulk buying cooperatives at wholesale prices. Families would pool their money to order flour, sugar, and canned goods by the wagon load, splitting the cost far below retail. But as supermarkets expanded and discount chains offered competitive everyday prices, the cooperative's savings advantage disappeared. Convenience won out over collective effort. Number 14. Barter labor and goods inside the community. A neighbor needing a new roof would offer a milk cow in trade. Another might repair harnesses in exchange for a season's worth of potatoes. This system faded as cash became more common and specialty goods replaced handmade ones. Factory tools and store-bought feed made it easier to pay in dollars than to haggle over a bushel of apples. Number 15. Care for elders at home. There were no nursing homes, no retirement accounts. Grandparents lived with their children, contributing wisdom and childcare, and were cared for in return. This arrangement was simply expected, part of the family compact. It faded as the post-war economy boomed. Pensions and social security allowed seniors to live alone, while younger families, chasing mobility and suburban privacy, no longer built homes with space for aging parents. The old arrangement fell out of fashion, replaced by independence at a cost. Number 16. Deliberately plain weddings. Amish couples married in the bride's home, not a venue. No caterer, women from the church cooked the meal, rings were avoided as vain. The wedding cost next to nothing, but as factory-made dresses and store-bought food became cheap. This austerity felt old-fashioned and faded even among the devout. Number 17. Simple funerals. The Amish reject costly embalming and ornate caskets. A plain pine box, a graveside service, no funeral home markup. This tradition faded as mainstream funeral homes marketed grief services as a necessity. pushing elaborate ceremonies steeped in profit. Number 18. Live off-grid. Amish homes rely on propane, kerosene, and wood instead of power lines. A hand pump brings water, a root cellar keeps food cool, and solar panels are forbidden. Too worldly. This wasn't a statement, it was simple thrift, no monthly bill to pay. The reason most Americans abandoned it? Convenience. Electric lines reached every farm by the 1950s, and a few dollars each month were worth the ease of flipping a switch. But off-grid living never faded entirely. It just became hidden. Even today, some rural homesteaders choose propane fridges and oil lamps, quietly avoiding the grid for the same reason an Amish grandfather would. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. Number 19. Large families provided built-in labor and old-age security. Children worked alongside parents from a young age, and adult children cared for aging parents at home. But as farm work was replaced by factory jobs, large families became a financial burden rather than an asset, and this tradition faded. Over time, the shift to hourly wages outside the home meant children lost economic value. Social Security and pensions offered old-age security that didn't require raising many children. What was once a practical necessity became a choice, and family sizes shrank. Number 20. Sell direct at roadside stands by word of mouth. An Amish farm family would set a simple table at the end of the lane, heaped with produce, a coffee can for payment. No signs, no ads, just a hand-painted sweet corn board. Neighbors told neighbors, the reputation of honest quality did all the work. But this model faded as supermarkets undercut prices and cars let customers drive to town. The quiet roadside stand became a casualty of convenience, remembered now as a lost secret of thrift. Number 21. Settle disputes through the church, never courts. When disagreements arose within the community, families brought them before the church elders, men respected for their wisdom and fairness. The elders would listen to both sides, often in a simple meeting after Sunday service, and render a judgment meant to restore peace, not assign blame. There were no lawyers, no filing fees, no lengthy court battles. The goal was reconciliation, not victory. This practice faded not because it was ineffective, but because later generations became more integrated with the outside world. Young people who left, or who worked in English-owned businesses, sometimes preferred formal legal protections, seeing church judgment as too personal or lacking legal teeth. The old way was seen as old-fashioned, and the convenience of a court-appointed mediator, or simply avoiding conflict, edged it out. Yet for those who remain in the church, the method still holds. Number 22. Horse and buggy. For the Amish, a horse costs a fraction of a car. No fuel, no insurance, no annual registration fees. A harness and a buggy could be handed down for decades. But by the 1950s, cheap automobiles and paved roads made the horse buggy seem slow and inconvenient to outsiders. Modern life simply trotted past this old way, leaving it a symbol of faith rather than frugality. Number 23. Repair and hand down tools and furniture for generations. Amish families treated every object as a long-term investment. A good axe might pass through 4 hands, each user sharpening and oiling it for the next. This practice faded when factory-made goods became cheaper than repair. By the 1950s, it was often faster to buy a new hammer than to fix a broken one, and the old habit of mending quietly slipped away. Number 24. Preserve a whole year of food at harvest to skip weekly grocery bills. Amish families would can hundreds of jars of vegetables, fruits, and meats in late summer, then store them in a cool root cellar. This tradition faded as supermarkets and frozen foods offered year-round convenience, making canning seem like unnecessary drudgery. But those who still practice it enjoy a pantry of unprocessed, debt-free groceries. Number 25. Amish youth save their Rumspringa and teen wages to enter adulthood debt-free. From age 16, they work in English-owned factories or farms, but funnel nearly every dollar into a savings account. When they marry, they buy land or a house with cash. No mortgages, no student loans. This practice faded as factory wages rose and temptations grew. Many youth began keeping more for cars, phones, and nights out during Rumspringa. The habit of saving the bulk of teen earnings, once a community pillar, slowly gave way to the consumer culture of the 1960s and 70s. These 25 practices weren't handed down from some ancient secret society. They were simply the way things were done, generation after generation. So why did so many of them fade from the wider world? Convenience played its part, factory goods edged out homemade repairs, and the promise of easy credit replaced the discipline of paying cash. Insurance companies and banks grew powerful by selling peace of mind, even though the Amish proved that a tight-knit community could provide it for free. And let's be honest, many of these habits came to be seen as old-fashioned, even low-class, by a society that measured success by consumption and debt. But the Amish didn't abandon them. They held fast to a simple truth: freedom isn't having more, it's needing less and owing nothing. These aren't relics to be romanticized, they're tools that still work. The question isn't whether you could become Amish, it's which of these practices you could adapt to your own life. Which of these would you bring back? Could you skip one credit card purchase this month? Trade a skill with a neighbor instead of hiring out? Put away the car keys for a short trip and walk? Start small, and you'll find that the old paths lead to something rare in our age: real freedom. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best savings plan isn't found on Wall Street. It's found in the simple wisdom of those who came before.